Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sean Rollinson. I'm a licensed professional counselor practicing out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and I really just want to welcome you to this space. My goal for this channel is really very simple. I want to help you with your relationships. Your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. And I'm hoping that you find this channel useful. I want to make a disclaimer. Odds are I'm not your therapist. So I want you to realize that the information on this channel is for informational purposes only. This information isn't meant to treat or diagnose you. It's just meant for you to hopefully learn something, find some value in it, in some way. Hopefully it will enrich your relationships in your life. So I really appreciate you being here. So today is kind of my second video on this definition that I have of love, which is love is understanding without judgment. And what I want to do today is really look at the concept of judgment, what that is, where it comes from. And then the video after this, we're going to begin to look at the idea of understanding, okay? But today I really want to look at the definition or the term judgment. Now, I am not trying to tell you you shouldn't have judgment. We all need to be able to judge accurately to live a healthy life. That's just a basic concept. I'm looking at this idea of judgment that is detrimental to your relationship with self, and detrimental to your relationship with others, and detrimental to the relationship that you have with the world around you. I also want to state that not judging others is not an easy task. It takes practice. It takes practice to see somebody for exactly who they are, based on their historical conditioning, and not judge them. I'm hoping that through this process, I can give you some tools and some techniques to where you can actually decrease the amount of judgment that you have for individuals and increase the amount of curiosity, listening, understanding, and love that you have for them. And that's hopefully my goal here, at least in this series of videos. So what I would like to do first, I think, is I would like to ask you this question. I've got some notes down here that I'm going to be referring to once in a while, because unfortunately I don't know how to edit these darn videos yet. So I'm trying to do all of this in one take, and it has become a very challenging endeavor, but I promise I'll get through it. And at some point I'll learn how to navigate editing videos. But I want to ask you this question. Why do we judge? Okay? Why do we judge others? I believe there's three main reasons that we judge others. They could all be clumped into one main category, but I've kind of parsed it out a little bit to make a little bit more sense of it. The first reason I believe that we judge is for our survival. The second reason is a defense mechanism to protect myself against myself and others. And the third is because of my fear, because of our fear. So let's look at this kind of piece by piece. When I talk about our survival, our evolution as a species is dependent on the ability for us to accurately judge our environment. I want to repeat that. Our survival as a species is dependent on our ability to accurately judge our environment. Now, when I'm talking about accurately and judging our environment, this is more of a primal, instinctual, automatic response to our environment. It's not something that we're thinking about thinking, if that makes sense. I believe that the practice of mindfulness, which I'm really going to focus on in this channel, is the ability to look at our automatic behaviors and realize that they're there, and then determine if our automatic behaviors are in sync with the person that we want to be. And if that's not in line with the person that we want to be, then be able to use our cognitive abilities, our intellectual and emotional self-regulation abilities to override those automatic responses and to act more in congruence with our true nature. So again, I kind of get off on these little tangents here, but I want to remind you, survival is the first reason that we judge. And let me give you just a quick example. Back in caveman days, walking along a path, you see two bushes. One's got a bunch of thorns, one's got some great berries. You have to make a judgment right there, which is the best bush to eat from. Pick the thorns, you're going to get poked. Pick the berries, you're going to live longer, right? So we're making a judgment, and my survival depends on the ability to accurately make a judgment on what's best for me and my clan. That is one reason why we judge, is our survival. The next reason we judge is it's a defense mechanism. And it's a defense mechanism broken down into kind of three areas. Protection of myself against myself. I'll get into that in a minute. Protection of myself in relation to you. And then also a way to validate. So let me talk about this idea of projection. Projection is our unconscious way that we hide ourselves from our unhealthy thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Okay, so again, defense mechanism is the second reason why we judge, and part of a defense mechanism is called projection. And projection is an unconscious way in which we hide ourselves from our unconscious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This concept was a little hard for me to wrap my brain around at first, but let me explain maybe in an example. If I am an inherently gossipy person, I'm in the office and I'm talking about all these people, and I'm like, look at Susie over there, look what she's doing, and David over there is doing this, and I'm getting all involved in other people's businesses and business. And then I notice that there's another person in the office that's gossiping. I quickly point that out and say, look at Dave, he's gossiping about everybody. I can't believe he would do that. That is projection. I am hiding the fact that I do that for myself by focusing on somebody else's behaviors. And it's usually pretty subtle, but for some people, it's pretty obvious that they do that. And you probably know what I'm talking about. You either do it yourself, which we all do a little bit, or you know somebody that projects quite a bit. We can also project our feelings onto other people. So how would I put that? If I'm feeling unloved and my wife looks at me in a way that is not very pleasing, like say she's irritated with me, I might have this feeling, oh, she doesn't love me, right? And then I say, you don't love me. Well, I'm actually projecting a negative core belief I have about myself onto her, thinking that she thinks that about me. Does that make sense? So that's another form of projection. Second defense mechanism is called protection. And we judge to protect ourselves. Let me give you an example. If you attack me, I attack you back. If you judge me, I judge you back. It's kind of a mirroring of our behaviors. It's a reflecting of our behaviors, but it's a way that I can protect myself from an attack from somebody else as I attack back or I judge back. Okay? And then the third defense mechanism is what I call validation. And what do I mean by validation? Let's say I have an insecurity. Let's say, okay, I got one for you. Over COVID-19, I gained 30 pounds at least. And definitely didn't gain the COVID-19. I definitely gained the COVID-30. And I'm a little self-conscious about my weight now. And now I'm trying to practice healthier eating and trying to go to the gym. Well, one way that I can feel better about my physique is to compare myself to people around me. Now, it wouldn't make any sense for me to start comparing myself to people that are ripped and healthier than me, because that's just going to make me judge myself more. So what I might do is I might find somebody that's in worse shape than I am, that's heavier than I am, and look at them and be like, oh my God, look at that person. He can't even take care of himself. What's wrong with him? I'm doing that as a self-soothing mechanism. and to validate my own wholeness, to validate that, hey, I'm better than somebody else even though I'm overweight. Not a healthy thing to do, but one of the reasons why we do judge. So we've looked at survival, we've looked at defense mechanism, and now I want to look, I think it's the most important, meaningful area of judgment, and that is fear. I asked my daughter the other day, I said, tell me why, or tell me what you think is the reason that people are judgmental in regards to their fear. Like, how does fear influence judgment? And she goes, well, judging other people is just easier than walking through your fear. And I was like, awesome. My daughter's definitely an old soul. She was absolutely right. I want you to hear this. If I don't understand something, remember survival, remember primal instinct, right? If I don't understand something, it's much easier to fear it. Make sense? Again, if I don't understand something, if I don't understand what those bushes are, and one of them's pokey and one of them's bright and colorful, but I don't understand what they are, I might be afraid of it. Make sense? So we judge a lot of times because of our fear, and our fear comes from a lack of understanding. Make sense? Our fear comes from a lack of understanding. So I've got tattoos. I'm in love with tattoos. Haven't drank in a long time, but I decided I'd start getting addicted to tattoos when I quit drinking over a decade ago. And I know that people judge me for my tattoos. So let's use those as an example. If somebody looks at me and doesn't understand why I get tattoos, doesn't understand why I would put myself through that pain, and thinks that they're stupid and ugly or whatever they might think about it, part of the reason they feel that way is because they don't understand why I get tattoos. Does that make sense? They're afraid of it because they don't understand it. And instead of slowing down, being open, they just judge. It's just easier. It's the shortest way to get from an uncomfortable feeling to a comfortable feeling, is judgment. Let me explain that idea. If I'm feeling afraid, I want to get out of that feeling as quick as possible. By the way, this is very unconscious. I want to get out of that feeling as quickly as possible. It's going to take me a lot longer to sit down and really understand why somebody's doing something, as opposed to just judge them and move on. The cessation of my negative and unpleasant, conscious or unconscious feelings is much quicker when I just judge somebody. I can then say, oh, that guy has tattoos, he's stupid, what an idiot, and I can move on and feel better about myself. Make sense? So, again, the fact that we judge individuals comes from three main reasons: our survival, our need to protect ourselves, and our inability to walk through our fear. I want to end with this. I promised my wife that I would not take this YouTube channel to start spouting off my beliefs about society and my beliefs about where the world is going, and I'm going to do my damnedest not to do that. But I believe, my personal belief, is that we have two choices. We can either become a victim of our life circumstances, or we can become a student of our life circumstances. And the decision to either be a victim or a student depends on this one factor: how we manage our pain. Okay? How we manage our pain. Pain is inevitable. There is not one person on the planet that gets out of life without pain. Now, what we tend to do, let me put this differently. What I used to do, and what I can still do if I allow myself, is I'll be experiencing some form of pain, whether it be emotional pain, whether it be jealousy or anger or shame or resentment or fear, some uncomfortable emotion that I'm experiencing based on a life circumstance that's happened. And it usually boils down to this feeling of fear. If you kind of distill it all the way down, it's usually based in fear. And instead of walking through that fear, I tend to make a narrative about why I'm in this situation. Well, they did this, or she did that, or he did this, or I'm this, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough. All of this narrative that I'm creating over here is a distraction from the really need to walk through the pain and the fear. This over here, this narrative that I've created, is 100% avoidable. The pain is 100% unavoidable. So I have to make a choice. Am I going to continue focusing on this narrative, which I call suffering, intentional suffering, again, 100% avoidable. I can stop doing that, and I can start looking at my pain. Now, I can do one of two things with that pain. Again, I can become a victim of it, keeping that narrative going. They did this, I did that, right? And if I stay a victim long enough, I'm going to become a perpetrator. I'm going to become a perpetrator on you, or I'm going to become a perpetrator on me. This pain that I have not walked through, that I have not resolved, is going to come out somewhere, and it's going to come out on somebody. And it's probably going to come out on you, or I'm just going to continue to self-harm in some way, negative self-talk, addiction, whatever it might be, high-risk behaviors, and it's going to come out on me. A victim will always remain a victim and then eventually become a perpetrator. I am not saying that if you have been the victim of a violent assault or a crime, or somebody taking advantage of you, or taking advantage of you, I'm not saying that you are responsible for what happened to you. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that the only way through that pain that you are experiencing is to find a way to learn from it. Find a way to get it to teach you. Find a way to allow the universe, your God, whatever you believe in, to open up your heart to understand what that life event is trying to teach you. If you can take a negative life event that creates pain or fear or shame and learn from it, you are now a student. And a student grows. A student expands. A student's level of consciousness raises. And eventually, after you feel like you've learned enough, you can become a teacher. What would the world look like if each one of us had something to teach the next person about life events and life situations? How wonderful would it be instead of me judging you, I helped you because I've been where you're at and I know what to do and I have some perspective. The only way to do that is to stop being the victim that I've been and take my pain as an opportunity to learn. I hope this has been educational for you. I hope it's touched you in some way. If it hasn't, that's okay too. I hope it hasn't offended anybody. That's not my intention. I know it's choppy. I know that I'm learning this practice of talking into a camera. But I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your support. If you want to subscribe to the channel, great. If you want to send this to somebody, great. If not, that's okay too. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.